All right then, the start of another week, another important week for Celtic. So here we are on the morning briefing, myself and Sean Martin, just the two of us this morning to have a wee chat about Celtic's win over Hearts and a brief preview of the AZ Alkmaar playoff, which is creeping up on Wednesday evening. Actually, a change from the usual Thursday slot for the Europa League. Sean, yesterday, by all accounts, it was an absolutely blistering first half from Celtic, and they saw out the game well, getting a third in the second. I think people are just feeling generally pretty happy at the moment.
I think they've got every right to be. First half, as you say, was superb. It was a great way, to be honest, to banish any lingering demons of that Tynecastle defeat right away. I know that they would argue that they would already moved on and they weren't thinking about it, but I think Tony put it well in his post-match thing, that they'd maybe be economical with the truth about that. There would have been a wee element of revenge on their minds, and I think you could see that from the first second of the game, the way that they went about their business.
The first goal, I think, is going to be replayed for some time, especially with the implementation of this new Celtic style. The ball across from Furuhashi, the timing of the run from Edouard, and the ball in from Forrest, it was absolutely superb, wasn't it?
It was great. It was great to watch, and showcased another side to Kyogo's game as well, that he can spot a pass rather than just the incisive runs and shots. Bodes well, to be honest, no matter what the front three is now. But
and yeah, that's the thing. There are options. Christie wasn't involved yesterday. I think he picked up a little knock. Well, I think Celtic fans will hope anyway that it's a knock and it's not anything to do with contracts. And Abada as well missed out. I think he should be okay for Wednesday. I'm sure that Ange said that he should be back in the reckoning pretty soon. The depth is starting to look significantly better than it was even, 4 months ago for Celtic in that department.
Going forward, definitely. There's an element of depth there, albeit we still assume that the likes of Edouard might leave. Hopefully Christie doesn't as well. But to be honest, with mentioning Christie, I would take Ange at face value. It was him that mentioned it was a knock, so I would take that at face value. But fingers crossed that's the case anyway. But yeah, going forward, definitely there's an element of depth and options there. At the back, still there's questions to be answered in terms of why the recruitment's taking so long. But
what's concerning you about the back then? I suppose we can have a quick chat about Starfelt. I think it's fair not to be too harsh. The guy's just come into a new style, a new country, a new league. Mm-hmm. It's hard to expect even a £4 million centre half to just waltz in and start strolling things. But he's taken a wee bit of time to bed in. You would agree that that's slightly excusable?
I think so, but he did cruise the first half, but then he never really did anything much to worry about in the first half, apart from eye strain watching attack after attack. In the second half, it did, to be fair, look as if he was going to be going the same way and cruising it a wee bit, even though Hearts came out with a wee bit more intent. But he gave away that penalty, and it seemed to shake his confidence for a wee bit. So while I think he is improving, I don't know if it's the pace of the game here or just his nature, but he seems to be predisposed to a wee bit of lackadaisical play sometimes, in terms of, letting balls bounce, getting caught under the ball a couple of times, or with the penalty, and to a certain extent the second goal as well, just not being quite sharp enough to clear quickly or get across and realise the danger's right next to him, kind of thing.
Maybe a speed of thought kind of thing, maybe a bit of hesitation.
I would like to think if it is that, it's due to the fact that what you said earlier, it's a new club, new style, and maybe getting the confidence up rather than something that's just going to be a feature of his play. So, I mean, he's just joined. We'll see that as it develops.
I think Celtic probably will look to bring in another centre half, won't they? Because there's a bit of uncertainty about just when Julian will be back to full fitness, and aside from that, it's Starfelt and then a couple of the young boys. Although Welsh is doing fairly well at the moment, I think that it will be Starfelt or Welsh alongside another centre half, and that may be Julian, that may be someone else that comes in. Maybe it'll be the loanee from Man City. Who knows?
I think, to be honest, Welsh has really impressed me so far this season. I mean, in contrast to Starfelt, I think he's actually looking more and more assured with every game, which I hope comes with Starfelt as well, obviously. And there were signs over the last couple of games that Welsh might be a threat in the opposition's box as well, and that proved to be the case against Hearts. Took his goal well. I think he's been impressive. So if he continues that, I don't know if it's a given that it's him that drops out. He made a rash tackle, obviously, and he got booked for that. But in general, I mean, I'm really, really impressed with him lately, and I think he's worth that starting spot.
Yeah, it's definitely a fair point. And before we jump back up to the other end of the pitch, we've migrated to defence, so we'll stay here very quickly. We'll talk about the fullbacks because with each passing game, the criticism and uncertainty thrown towards Ralston and Taylor seems to diminish slightly. I think that people are starting to notice that they maybe are a bit better than we've given them credit for, although they're not the marquee or the flashy players. It seems like they've adopted the instructions and the new style from the manager fairly quickly, and the inverted style seems to suit both of them.
I thought they both played fairly well again, although, as I say, in the first half it was all about attacking, so very little they had very little to do defensively anyway. Second half, I thought that Josh Ginnelly posed Taylor a few problems at times, and I think, to be honest, that a team with fast, powerful wingers will do that to Celtic on both flanks this season until there's an upgrade anyway. And while Ralston had a good, I think it was the second half, defensive headed clearance, and the second Hearts goal came from his side, I thought there was still definite improvement from both of them recently. I think the fact that Ralston is still the only option at right back, though, is just speaks to how poor it is from the board in terms of speed of recruitment.
Yeah, that's a problem. It's a very shallow pool that Postecoglou is looking in at the moment, isn't it? With just Ralston there, because Urhoghide can play right back, but he's not in the picture for that slot anyway. So yeah, it's Ralston or no one, and I do think that they will bring in more fullbacks. I don't think that Bolingoli's got a future. I think we can all see that probably. And Taylor and Ralston have had the jerseys nailed down. But I think that if we are looking at Celtic to bring in another fullback, especially on the right-hand side, is it more defensive priorities and quality, or are you looking for somebody that can take the game upfield? Because the names that have been linked all seem to be very attacking fullbacks, whether that's Kuto from City or Buta from Antwerp before him, the couple of lads from Rennes that haven't followed through on.
There's been about 8 different right backs that have been linked with this summer. I think you would argue you would like a mix of both, but prioritising it for Celtic, then you would think the style that Ange wants to play, it would be more beneficial if it was a defender more capable on the ball. Ideally, they'll have the recovery pace essentially to still put in the defensive work and stuff. But I think it's not a big surprise that the right backs that Celtic have been linked to are more attacking, just because of the nature of the way Celtic play the majority of their games.
Let's go back up to the strikers then. It was interesting to see Furuhashi and Edouard in the same team yesterday. Furuhashi has played through the middle since he arrived and done extremely well. That was Edouard's job. He got his goal, the opening goal, which we've touched on, was fantastic, and Furuhashi was involved. So was Forrest on the other side. So ticks all round on that one. Furuhashi then got his goal, which, and I heard a wee bit of debate about this, that Craig Gordon didn't really influence that. I felt like Craig Gordon did kind of help that into the net slightly. It was a good strike from Furuhashi, but we were reminiscing about Gordon in the Hearts game at Tynecastle, and why did Celtic let him go, blah blah blah. But I think that yesterday that was an error on his part. But Furuhashi got his goal. How do you think that the three of them worked up there, and specifically with Edouard being back in the starting lineup?
First of all, I agree. I think that it was an error from Craig Gordon. I also think that the goal kick actually led to the chance as well. Was a poor goal kick from him. But to be honest, just to mention him once more, he made like 10 saves. He did have a good game for Hearts, I thought, again. In terms of the front three, I thought it was interesting. It was intriguing when they announced the lineup to see whether maybe I thought possibly Edouard might play off the left, but it went to Kyogo. And I thought that the three of them linked up really well with each other. Kyogo just strikes me as the kind of guy that is going to link up well with everybody that he plays with, just because of how incisive his runs are, how sharp he is, even the quick corner and all that. Like, just how mentally on it he seems to be every minute of the game that he's on. In terms of Edouard, I thought he played well. I mean, a goal and assist, it's not too bad, is it? In general, as I say, link-up play was good. I think there was enough of a work ethic and evidence there to maybe quieten down the more vocal of his critics lately as well. His dive, they can't not mention his dive. His dive is a bit daft. Given I actually think if he might actually got fouled if he stayed on his feet a bit longer. There's a couple of times I've seen a couple of criticisms that it could have passed to a better positioned teammate a couple of times. where he chose to shoot, but he's a striker, so I can't gripe too much about having a wee selfish streak. Kyogo's already shown he's got that too, and I'd rather that than strikers who don't fancy taking on a shot at all, to be honest.
I think Edouard, he scored the penalty as well in the Dundee match, and he's followed that up with the goal yesterday and the assist as well. The criticism that's been sent his way is that he doesn't look bothered. Do you think that the goals and the stats can mask that, or do you think there's still some mileage in that opinion?
But again, I don't necessarily think the stats bore that out when it was at its highest criticism either. I think it's just the impression that he gives rather than the actual fact of the matter. I mean, it was only 2 weeks ago that people were like discussing whether Turnbull had the work ethic to really thrive as a number 8 and stuff. And I think the last 2 games especially, last 3 games, he's been really, really good. And I don't think anybody's really mentioned the work ethic now, but he clearly, I think, is putting in more of the work. I don't know if Edouard was actually not putting in the work or if it's just the way that people viewed him because of his kind of language style and stuff. But I think certainly on Sunday, you could almost see the kind of desire to get, for instance, that goal. It was a really good run. But whether that's the presence of Kyogo and maybe he's infectious the way that he just goes about his business, I don't know. But I think it was possibly overstated how critical people were being at Edouard's work rate anyway. So
yeah, someone once said to me, Scotland's national sport is not football, it's overreacting. And sometimes I wonder if that just rings true with football fans generally. So yeah, it'll be interesting to see though if Edwards and Furuhashi both end up in the starting lineup for the Alkmaar game. Forrest on the right hand side, maybe Abada will come back in because he's really kicked on really well since he started Abada, and I feel like if he was to suddenly find himself out of the lineup, it would be extremely harsh. But do you think that it will stay or change for the Alkmaar qualifier?
I like Forrest on the right, but as you say, Abada done nothing to merit getting to lose the jersey. It just so happens to be a knock, but sometimes that's the way it goes. And I wonder if it will come into play that Forrest's obviously the kind of senior, one of the senior players. To be honest, I can think of worse things than having Abada to come on as a sub because he's very impactful and direct and so fast. So if he is on the substitutes bench, then there's a good chance that he plays a pivotal role anyway.
Can you see James McCarthy getting a go from the start against Alkmaar? I don't know if that might impact the way that McGregor plays, and then obviously only one of Turnbull or Rogic would then be able to slip in there alongside them.
I'm not sure. That's an interesting one because you've also got Sorrow there. You've also got Beaton that could play deeper as well if you're wanting to free McGregor to go slightly further forward. Although we've saw how great McGregor's been doing that kind of deeper role, and it seems as if that's going to be a feature of life at Parkhead specifically. I don't know about away games as much, might depend on the opposition, but certainly at Parkhead in games that were expected to dominate possession almost totally, I think McGregor will probably be the deeper midfielder. Whether that is the case against AZ, we'll need to wait and see.
Yeah, well, an interesting game lies in store. Remember, that's on Wednesday rather than Thursday for the Europa League this week, and today is the last day of the £1 offer for the first 6 months for the Celtic Way website. So if you are keen to sign up but haven't done so yet, maybe that will be the final thing that encourages you to do so. So £1 a month offer for the first 6 months membership ends this evening. You'll get loads of stuff, features, tactical interviews, insight into Celtic this season. So if you fancy signing up to check out what Sean, Tony and Alison and everyone else are writing, £1 a month offer ends this evening. So thanks for tuning in again. We'll be back tomorrow. Cheers, Sean.
Cheers.